It's called The Savage Sound. That's a reference to music, actually. And it's a serial killer book. But the difference between this work and your average serial killer book is that it's told from the perspective of the women victims and survivors. All the women in my family, my mum, my nan, my older sister, were fantastic storytellers in the oral tradition. And that means of telling stories has been around since the dawn of humankind. And it's that, people sitting around a fire entertaining each other. And it's that tradition and my own background that gives me the lineage for my own stories. I write them down because I've had the privilege of an education that my foremothers lacked. As I was growing up, and this may sound odd, but my mum told me stories about true murder. When other kids were being read nursery rhymes and fairy tales, my mum regaled me with tales of Dr. Crippen and John Christie, and of course Jack the Ripper. So real murder has always been a source of fascination for me. And it seemed an obvious place to begin my novel writing. First, I thought about what I wanted to say though. I didn't just want to show that I could string sentences together. For me, writing is about having something to say to the world, as I say, Richard. And what I wanted to talk about was the position of women under the cosh of patriarchy, violence against women, attitudes towards prostitution, feminism, and of course my constant themes of social class and sexuality. The Savage Sound was inspired by the killings of Peter Sutcliffe, who became known as the Yorkshire Ripper. The case allowed me to bring together all of those themes of interest. The murders took place in the 1970s, and at the time, the media and the police distinguished very clearly between prostitutes and innocent victims. And they told women to stay indoors after dark. The idea being that if you were on the street after dark, you were probably a prostitute. So it was like a curfew on women. And the case provoked an enormous resurgence of the feminist movement in the form of the Reclaim the Night marches that took place across the country. So the case felt like a very good starting point for me. Now, I've given my murderer another name. He's called Graham, but his psychology is based on extensive reading about Sutcliffe. But he's not Sutcliffe. In many ways, he's an amalgam of many different serial killers. For example, Graham collects souvenirs from the bodies of his victims. Peter Sutcliffe didn't. The victims and survivors are all entirely based on my imagination. They are not based on any real characters at all. All the women in it are purely from my imagination. Now, the overarching narrative of The Savage Sound follows the fortunes of a couple of prostitutes who happen to be in a lesbian relationship. In amongst this, I've written a number of what I call island stories, or short pieces that tell the stories of other victims. And it's one of these chapters that I'm going to read tonight, because they work as kind of short stories, so they're kind of probably a more satisfying thing to read as a short piece. This is a story about a woman called Rosie.